What's good, YouTube? Philanthropy's back for another video. Eagles Dallas week. For those who are fans of either team, you understand what it is. Now, one of America's favorite Cowboy fans, Skip Bayless, who unlike, and I'm going to say this first as a disclaimer, I actually like Skip Bayless because I don't really judge these people based on whether or not I agree with their takes or not. That's not how I judge these guys. I judge these guys based on their talent level and ability to defend whatever their take is, and also how entertaining they are. And for me, Skip Bayless was always, like him or not, he's a top 3 guy on television when it comes to sports, media, entertainment, as I call it. Well, at any rate, we know he's one of the most famous Dallas Cowboy fans in that particular space. At any rate, Skip Bayless here serves as the perfect example of the delusional Cowboy fan. Right now, Dallas sitting at, what are we talking about? 3-5 right now, 2-5, 3-5, I think. Philadelphia Eagles right now sitting at 6-2. Basically, in the words of a famous Philadelphia battle rapper, the Saints put you in a body bag, Dallas. The Lions put that in a body bag. The Eagles is going to put your body bag in a body bag. Or at least they have the opportunity to do so. Wherever the game is taking place, I believe it may be in Dallas. Perhaps. Cooper Rush is the starting quarterback. Dak Prescott is out with a hamstring. Ceedee Lamb might not play. I don't know if Micah Parsons is coming back or D-Law. Not that it matters. Those guys are never really effective against us. We have the line for that. But Skip Bayless is going to talk, give his view of things, and I'm going to chime in. Thanks.
It looked like the Eagles were about to beat Jacksonville 30-0. Saquon Barkley had just pulled off the single most unbelievable move I've ever seen any running back pull off, and I've been doing this for a long, long time. I carefully watched Barry Sanders at Oklahoma State as well as those few years in Detroit before he prematurely walked out the door. Saquon suddenly went backward hurdle over a defender. I never seen that. Yep, this was a no-look reverse over a defender. A no-look reverse over the defender. Eyes in the back of your head? I don't know. I've never seen this maneuver in all my life watching pro football. He what? Saquon has been so much better in Philly, to me, than he ever was in New York. But then it happened. A.J. Brown walked off.
Well, first off, right, that was one of the most amazing moves I've ever seen a running back perform. Right up there with some stuff Bo Jackson had done. Right up there with stuff Barry Sanders had done. And so on. Right there with, I still believe the most amazing thing I've ever seen was O.J. Simpson when he fell. It was on a Monday Night Football. When O.J. Simpson fell on his ass, jumped back up and kept running. And also when Beast Mode, I broke 10 or 11 tackles on a run. And because that was a touchdown, I put it over it. But what Saquon did was one of the most athletic things I've ever seen. Just to give my view on that.
He walked up to the locker room with a reported knee injury. He was walking, but he did not return. And the Eagles came close to falling apart. They did say after the game that they think he's fine. You never know, but he did not return to that game. Now, maybe what happened to the Eagles was in part because they were looking ahead, up 16-0, to the Cowboy game. It's a rivalry they take far more seriously than the Cowboys ever have. It's just in their genes, in their blood, as it is in Washington.
All right, this is number one here. It is 2024. And Skip Bayless comes with a mindset that you find with many Cowboy fans. Dallas Cowboy fans really believe that the Philadelphia Eagles team, organization, franchise takes the rivalry with the Cowboys far more serious than the Cowboys do. As if the Cowboys are sitting up on some pedestal somewhere, sitting in a throne room up on a chair. And the Eagles are just there looking up at the Cowboys and taking this thing far seriously while the Cowboys have better things to do and other things to worry about. You know. This just blows my mind. And he says it about Washington as well. Let's look at that for a second here. And I can quickly debunk that. Number one, since the Dallas Cowboys have been in existence, which is from 1960 until, I will say about to around 93, 94. The Dallas Cowboys have been the beneficiary of superior ownership to the Philadelphia Eagles from 1960 to about 93. The Philadelphia Eagles have been in existence since 1933 under a man named Burt Bell, and some of his, associates. Okay. The Philadelphia Eagles had won 3 NFL championships, 1948, 1949, and 1960. The year that the Dallas Cowboys had come into existence. After that, ownership changed. The Philadelphia Eagles went through a rough 60s period and an awful 70s period, which is the dark ages for the Philadelphia Eagles, under horrible ownership. The ownership started to get a little bit better towards the end of the 70s when Dick Vermeil was hired. And it was during Dick Vermeil's time when the goal for the Philadelphia Eagles was to just beat the Dallas Cowboys. Dick Vermeil came in, he made it a goal day one because the Dallas Cowboys had been whooping the Eagles' ass, sweeping them year after year after year after year. These were the Roger Staubach, Tony Dorsett, Drew Pearson, Tony Hill years. When their best player was Randy White, Ed Too Tall Jones, Hollywood Henderson, all of these guys. That was the glory days of the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys had 2 great decades, the 70s and then the 90s. It was during that time that much of this rivalry or this extreme dislike or hate towards the Dallas Cowboys was fostered. And particularly amongst Philadelphia fans. Not so much the players, though it did happen with the players, like Harold Carmichael, for example, hated the Dallas Cowboys. He said that. Herm Edwards, to this day, Coach Herm, hates the Dallas Cowboys. Many of them who suffered during that era did. That's true. But is it true that the Dallas Cowboys never took the rivalry serious? Once, Drew Pearson, the great Drew Pearson, who finally made it to the Hall of Fame, should have been in a little bit earlier, because they're unfair to wide receivers in the way they judge them based on the eras. Drew Pearson should have went in along with when Lynn Swann and Stallworth went into the Hall of Fame. Drew Pearson should have went in, because he was just as important to Staubach as Lynn Swann was to Bradshaw. But at any rate, he was asked, and Drew Pearson said, whichever team was the biggest threat, whether it was Washington, in those days, whether it was the Cardinals or whether it was the Eagles or the Giants. Whichever team was the biggest threat was the team that they took most serious, and which makes sense. During Drew Pearson's time, the only time the Eagles were a real threat to him was in the late 70s, early 80s. For the most part, other than that, they weren't. So that's why it wasn't taken serious, because the Cowboys were always winning. During the 90s, it was a similar thing, where you had, Aikman, Emmett, Irvin, that offensive line. You had that defense, led by guys like Leon Lett and Tony Tolbert and freaking Charles Haley and freaking Darren Woodson. And then Deion Sanders jumped on, who was the original Kevin Durant, who jumped on, right? So, yeah, during that time, without a doubt, those Eagles players who played in those 90s hate the Dallas Cowboys. But now, under Jeffrey Lurie, you do realize that since Jeffrey Lurie had taken over the Philadelphia Eagles, the Dallas Cowboys have won one Super Bowl, and the Philadelphia Eagles have won one Super Bowl. Jeffrey Lurie has more division wins than the Cowboys, more playoff appearances than the Cowboys, more NFC Championship appearances than the Cowboys, and so on. Once the ownership got better, the Eagles are the team that's in front of the Cowboys. It's been that way since Jeffrey Lurie's taken over. Yeah, Cowboys have been trash as far as ownership goes. They have good teams here and there, but yeah, as we all know, they're the laughingstock of the league. And Skip Bayless has the nerve to act as if the current Philadelphia Eagles, in that game against Jacksonville, started to fall apart in the game because they were looking forward to playing the Cowboys. How delusional is that? And this is the thing with the Cowboy fans, like Skip. They're delusional as hell. The Eagles are going to stomp a mud hole in your ass this week. That's what's going to happen. You're dead in the water. And they got a chance to stomp you out forever. Just put the nail in the coffin.
But this also was because no team and no quarterback depends more on one receiver than the Eagles and Jalen Hurts do on A.J. Brown. Never seen anything quite like it. It's almost weird to me. I give you this. He is one bad motor scooter. He sets their badass tone. He detonates their physicality. He and Jalen did have a personal issue last season, a scary bad one. And the result was the Eagles went from 10-1, remember this, to losing 6 of their last 7. I'm told that AJ and Jalen did make some kind of peace. They forgave and pretty much forgot.
What's crazy is none of this is true. None of it. Number one, the Philadelphia Eagles in 2021, before A.J. Brown came to the team, Jalen Hurts with a rookie Devontae Smith was able to make it to the playoffs. They were not a great team. They were young. They had to learn. But they made the playoffs. Last season, A.J. Brown went on a record-breaking streak of 6 games where he caught passes for 125 yards per game, breaking a record held by Megatron. That's what happened last season. As a Philadelphia Eagles fan who's here, who has his ear to what's going on, who's in Philadelphia, not one of these fans that's in another state, but that's in Philadelphia, never heard this narrative that they fell apart because of something between A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts. He's told they made up. Why would someone tell Skip Bayless they made up? Was it an Eagle? Let me ask y'all a question. Do y'all really believe that there's someone in the Eagles facility talking to Skip Bayless and telling him that, yeah, Jalen Brown and AJ and Jalen Brown had problems And they fixed and made it up. Do you believe that? I don't. And it's done in a way where nobody here locally knows what's going on. What are you talking about? A.J. Brown's upset about what? What had happened with the team, as all the stories have come out, is that Nick Sirianni was meddling way too much in the offensive playbook, would not allow the offensive coordinator, Brian Johnson, in conjunction with Jalen Hurts, he would not allow them the freedom to change the playbook, update the playbook, make the playbook much more dynamic. He wouldn't allow that. And this was the reason for the stagnation in the offense. It was Jalen Brown A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and all of that. They were just collateral damage. There was extra things. There were instances where Devontae Smith was arguing with Nick Sirianni. There were times when A.J. Brown was upset with Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts weren't getting along because Jalen Hurts felt it was unfair. I believe, but he felt it was unfair what happened to Brian Johnson. All of this has come out and was cleared up. There's nothing between A.J. and Jalen Hurts. So he's just wrong on all. He's just like not telling the truth. He just doesn't know what he's talking about with any of this.
But then a hamstring pull cost AJ.
Oh, and then the other thing I wanted to add, just this season, if we just took a second to look at this season. Week 1, the Philadelphia Eagles have A.J. Brown. They beat the Green Bay Packers in a tough game. Second game, A.J. Brown did not play against the Falcons. And the Eagles, were it not for a drop pass by Saquon Barkley at the end zone, would have won that game. This is without without A.J. Brown. What the hell I keep saying Jalen Brown? Without A.J. Brown. Game 3, was that the Tampa game? No. Game 3, wow, what is going on? Okay, so first played Falcons in Atlanta. Game 3, against the Saints. Or was the Saints game 2? Or I believe the Saints was game 3, whatever. A.J. Brown did not play in the Saints game, and the Eagles beat the Saints. So this narrative, now they lost to Tampa Bay, but that's because they didn't have Devontae Smith or A.J. Brown. And that's the worst the Eagles looked in the Tampa game. And for some reason, we weren't emphasizing Saquon Barkley in that game. And that's the worst the Eagles looked. Since then, the Eagles have been on a winning streak. So Skip is wrong again. The team doesn't completely fall apart without A.J. Brown. Now, is the offense less dynamic? Hell yeah, A.J. Brown is a top 5 wide receiver in the league. And in my opinion, he's a top 2 wide receiver. So, of course. Like, what's the point?
Brown, 3 games already this season, and the Eagles just didn't look right in those 3 games. Just didn't click, didn't detonate.
Let's take Jerry Rice off of the 49ers. Let's take Ceedee Lamb off of the Cowboys and see how that looks, right? Like, of course it's not going to click the same. Like, come on, Skip. Common sense, baby. Common sense, baby.
So now he could miss Sunday at Dallas. I don't know. We'll see how it turns out. He could miss. Eagles could also be without Dallas Goedert at Dallas. And yeah, I'll point out to you, the Eagles would be 7-1 if Saquon hadn't dropped that little game-ending flip of a pass from Jalen. That was at Atlanta. That would have ended the game. But without A.J. Brown, this team just looks a little off, just looks a little vulnerable, just looks so much more beatable. And no, I would not at all be surprised if Cooper Rush beats the Eagles even without Ceedee. But that's just me.
Yeah, you're a delusional Cowboys fan. First of all, A.J. Brown, after the MRI, now maybe Skip had recorded this before then, But the MRI said that A.J. Brown suffered no structural damage to the knee, so appears to me he's likely to play. But let's say he didn't play, and the Cowboys didn't have Ceedee Lamb, and you had Cooper Rush starting with no running game, because Cooper Rush did win some games for the Cowboys before, but that was with Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott, okay, in the backfield, and Ceedee Lamb did play, all right? So now he's telling me that he can imagine a situation where Cooper Rush beats the Philadelphia Eagles with no running game, the offensive line currently the way it is, and no Ceedee Lamb, just because A.J. Brown might not play. Oh, man. See what I'm saying? The delusion of the Cowboy fan. I love it, Skip, because you know what's going to happen? The Dallas Cowboys are about to be sent to the Shadow Realm, to the Dark Forest, 6 feet under, all of the above. And the Philadelphia Eagles have the honor and pleasure of being the team to do it. You know what? This is really a good time. If I was a drinker, I would go pop me a bottle of something. Catch y'all later. Peace out.